Greetings, children, and welcome back. Today, in our journey through geometry, we're learning about three-dimensional shapes. Sometimes you hear these called geometric solids, or platonic solids, or some of these other names. Now, not all of these are platonic solids, but we are looking at some geometric solids. And when you're drawing a three-dimensional shape on a two-dimensional board like this, then there's a couple different things that you have to keep in mind. And we're going to talk about the names of the shapes as well as how to draw them. So in your book, it has some drawn like this with some shading, and those were obviously done on a computer or something similar. And then it has some done like this that are see-through. They're transparent. So we're going to look at the ones that are transparent and how to draw those. Part of your assignment this evening will be to draw the three-dimensional shapes, as well as just labeling their names. So let's take a look. The first one it talks about is a prism. So a prism is when you have the same polygons as bases, and then those are parallel, and then you have rectangles or polygons connecting those bases as well. Now, there's a type of prism called a cube that everybody's familiar with. So let's start by drawing a cube. Now, a cube, let's say we're looking at it from the top perspective here. It's going to look like this. So here's our cube. All right. Now, there's actually these parts in the back as well. So now we can talk about some different parts of drawing here when we're drawing three-dimensional shapes. So we're drawing in what's called perspective, where we can see the shape is a little different than if you're looking at it at a different angle. So this is from a specific angle we're drawing this cube. Now, is this cube perfect? No, of course not. We're just drawing a sketch. But you should always try to use a tool if you can, like a ruler or a straight edge, when you're drawing, and try to make it as neat as possible. Now, notice the lines that are solid are the ones that are in the foreground, that are in the front, that you could actually see. The lines that are in the background are dotted lines or dashed lines. And those represent lines that are there, that are part of the shape, but that you can't actually see. And in this case, when we're drawing a line, it's actually an edge of that polygon. So that would be a cube. There's other ways to draw cubes. Here's another example of a cube in perspective. So, and then these would come down here like this. So it's a different perspective. It's from the front with a vanishing point up here instead of from the corner with a vanishing point. So that would be another way to draw a cube in perspective. But let's take a look at a prism. So a prism, as we said, it has a base. So here's our top of our prism. And then it has a base that looks exactly the same on the bottom. And then we have sides that connect those bases. So there's our prism. Well, that was not a very good line down here. So there's our prism. And then we would have these other ones that are in the background here. So you can see this top part and the bottom part are both the same shape and they're parallel. They're in parallel planes, and then they're connected by these rectangles on the side. So that's a prism. Now, not all prisms look exactly the same. And like I said, a cube is a type of prism, and it's what we call a square prism or a rectangular prism. And then there's different polygons that can make a prism. So one of them is a triangular prism. This one's also in your book, where the base is a triangle. So think about like a wedge of cheese would be a type of triangular prism, where you have a triangle for the top and the bottom, and then you have these rectangles that are the sides. We call the sides in three-dimensional shapes like this lateral surfaces. We talked about the word lateral yesterday. It means side. So that would be a triangular prism. All right. Next, we're going to talk about pyramids. Pyramids are a special type of cone, and a pyramid has a point at the top where all the sides meet, and then it has a polygon for its base. So remember, polygons are things with straight sides. So there's, of course, the pyramids that we think of in Egypt, and those are square pyramids. So they have a square for their base. So we have this square down here at the bottom, and then at the top, all of those sides meet up. Now, you wouldn't be able to see all these sides, so technically this one in the background should be dashed, and this one here should be dashed as well. So it should actually look like that, where we have this square for its base, we have these that are actually visible, and then these ones in the back, they're dashed lines. So this one's dashed, this one's dashed. So that will be an example of what we call a square pyramid. We name them by their base, so this one has a base that's a square. Another common type of pyramid is a triangular pyramid. So the base is a triangle. So it would look like this. So the base is a triangle, and then in that all the sides meet up at the top. The top part is called the vertex. I don't think it mentions that in your book. And then we have a few other shapes. Now, prisms are a special type of cylinder. You've all seen cylinders if you've ever opened up a can of soup. So to draw a cylinder, we would draw the top, and it looks kind of like a flat circle, flattened circle, which we call an ellipse. And then the bottom, now this part you can see, this part you couldn't. So it would look like that. So that would be a cylinder. You could have different sizes of cylinders. So depending on what we have now, cylinders can actually have any shape for their base. They just both have to be the same. So it doesn't, if it has a polygon for its base, it's a prism. It's a special type of cylinder. But just any cylinder, so we could have something, that looked like this for the base, just as long as we had the same looking thing on the bottom. So as long as it was the same on the top and the bottom, then it would be a type of cylinder. Most of the time what we draw is what's called a right circular cylinder, where the top is a circle, and then the bottom is also a circle, and those are parallel. And then we have a cone. Now most people, when they think of cone, think of the ice cream cone. Now you can think of it like that. It's the pointy type of ice cream cone that has a circle for a base. So it looks like that, maybe a party hat or an ice cream cone. So that's what we call a circular cone. And then the last shape that we have that we're going to talk about today is a sphere. So a sphere, you would draw a circle, and then you draw this part is going to be solid, and then this part's going to be dashed. And then if you want, you can draw one this way as well, solid and then dashed. And then we have our center there. So a sphere is basically if you took a circle and you rotated it in every direction, because every point on the sphere is the same distance from that central point. So today you're going to be drawing, or sketching, I guess, and labeling each of these shapes. So do your best when you're drawing them. Use the examples at the top that are see-through. Don't try to draw the shaded ones. Those are much more difficult to draw and not really necessary for this lesson. So make sure when you're labeling these that you are as specific as possible. If it's a rectangular prism, put rectangular. If it's triangular, put triangular. Don't just put prism for everything. Alright, well that's it. That's all we're going to talk about today as far as three-dimensional shapes. So thanks, and have a great day. See you next time.